Hello, and welcome. This is my lesson plan walkthrough for how I bring the Hanukkah Hop into my elementary music class. We are going to jump right in. If you got something cozy to drink, oh my goodness, it is that time of the year. Everything's cozy. Yes, my house is too cold, but you know what? If you have a hot drink, everything kind of balances out, yeah? All right, the first thing that I do when I'm introducing this lesson is I go over just a little bit of the history and what is klezmer music. We go over who it comes from, we go over what it's typically including, meaning at least 2 violins, a cello, a bass, some flutes, clarinets, and we talk about how it's actually been changing for hundreds of years and that it helped to revitalize and bring in different music genres, including jazz, rock, R&B, and so much more. There's also a very short history of klezmer music that I went ahead and linked. And something that I always tell my students is because this is not my culture, I am learning along with them. So any questions that they have, what I love to do is I love to kind of pause the lesson for a little, especially if it's just at the beginning, and try to do a little research together to find out the answers to some of those questions before we continue on in. Now, this entire story is going to go with a full play-along lesson. And by that, I mean I usually have my students do this on Orff instruments, but really any pitched instrument can work. Bells would be lovely. Boomwhackers would be great. If you're doing recorder, wonderful. But they will need treble clef. So I go over just a little warm-up with my students at the beginning. I like to use the tricks every good boy does fine, space equals face, just going through, giving my students that repetition, because we know that's what they all need, and then doing a speed round at the end because my students find it just the most fun. The next thing that we do is we add in some of those treble clef letters for a very simple and very traditional Hanukkah folk song that is going to be found throughout the story, The Hanukkah Hop by Erica Silverman. So we go ahead, and I love to use some animations. It's one of my favorite things. So we just have the students go up and add in those treble clef letters before really beginning. All right, now I do warn my students, we're going to start our story, but be careful. The song that we just found the treble clef letters is going to get a little harder each time, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding some harmony and maybe go into 3 parts if you're brave enough. And then we go ahead and get started. We read just a little bit of the story, The Hanukkah Hop, which is this really lovely story about a little girl whose family is getting ready for Hanukkah and this big party that they have, where they invite their whole family, they eat good food, including latkes that the mom is preparing, and throughout it she is singing Bitty Bitty Bum Bum. So again, you read a little bit, you go ahead, you have your students play through it, or maybe you're just having them sing it, and then you read a little bit more. The next thing you want is to have your students do a very simple rhythm analysis. So if I said I, then I'm going to ask my students, if I said I, is that going to be more like a half note, a quarter note, or an eighth note? And you really want them to hear how you're saying it. So if I said hi, that's only taking up 1 beat, so it's got to be a quarter note. Flicker, 2 eighth notes, like the flame, until you have at the end. The only tricky part is Hanukkah, I always have as a triplet, and hop is how I would say it so that my students know it's not just taking up 1 beat, it's going to take 2 before continuing the story. Maybe if you're brave enough, you have your students just be chanting the I, flicker like the flames, while the other students are trying to play Bitty Bitty Bum Bum using those treble clef letters before continuing the story. All right, now same thing, you're going to add in those treble clef letters, but this is for a harmony to go along with the song, and you're going to be using that later, so you want to make sure that you're really giving your students a time to play through this, so they won't be shocked coming up. Because after you read a little bit more, you divide your students into 2 groups and see if they can try out these harmonies. Now, this is typically a lesson that I use for 2nd grade through 5th grade. So it might be fairly easy for them, or this might be a big challenge and take you a little longer than you expect. Continuing on with the story, you do another set of rhythm analysis. Again, nothing crazy for continuing the story. And this, during the story, is where everyone's dancing, everyone's having a great time, and everyone's going a little bit crazy. So we might as well do the same thing and get ready for a speed round. Now, this, if you set the expectations high, is so fun, so engaging, and a great way for your students to practice following a conductor. Now, if you don't set the expectations high and you just let them go wild, then it's going to turn into chaos, and not the fun kind of chaos, but the bad kind of chaos. So make sure you set your expectations high for this, right? What I do is I put the rhythm, whatever it is, up on the board, and I give them 5 seconds, 5, 4, 3, 2, strumming, and so on and so forth. You read a little bit more, and this is for the brave ones. Can your students do the melody, the harmony, and a percussion section along with it, meaning you will need to divide them into 3 groups. This is another section that can be so much fun. Again, everyone's dancing, everyone's going crazy. Play as fast as you can, but keep your eyes up for when I say stop. Again, can be fun if expectations are high, can be absolute chaos if they are not. And really, that's the end of the story. Again, this lesson is a full play along. Your students will be practicing treble clef letters, they'll be practicing reading rhythms, they'll be practicing harmonies, they'll be practicing following a conductor, and putting it all together for a wonderful story. Now at the end, I feel like we've all seen this video. It's wonderful and it's bitty bitty bum bum. So if you need your students to have a quick clapping game, then I link this as well as a wonderful resource to use to give your students a clapping, singing, and a movement break. But here's what I really like to do for a nice cool down where I also get to grab a cheeky assessment from my students. Now usually what I try to do is I try to make all of these lessons that I've been talking about absolutely no prep. And the reason that I'm doing this is because this is my 12 days of movement where I'm giving away 12 of these lessons that all include movement breaks, assessments, both digital and printable. And I try to make all of these lessons absolutely no prep because it is that time of year where everything is just crazy. It's either right in the holiday season or it's right after the holiday season where you're just trying to figure out what this new year is going to bring. And what's also my favorite part about these lessons is they all connect with 12 Nutcracker scarf dances, movement breaks, and rhythm play-alongs that I already have up and posted on my YouTube channel. So if you are not liking, subscribing, and following along, now is the time because days 1 through 9 are already posted and ready to go. And each of these movement breaks or play-alongs all connect with a song from the Nutcracker, starting all the way at Overture and the end. This coming Friday, I will have posted the finale, meaning we'll have gone over at least 12 of the songs featured in the Nutcracker Ballet. And each has a different theme. Sometimes your students will be making gingerbread cookies, other times they'll be ice skating, and my absolute favorite, your students may even get to have a snowball fight in the classroom. Now the scarf dance that I'm going to connect with my students is going to go with the song Pas de Deux, and they will be following a star. Now that's not posted yet, but when this video goes live, then that one should be there too, if I can ever get off this couch, because honestly, I am just very, very toasty right now. So with that, if you want to try out these lessons, it is a love it or a leave it. You can go ahead and sign up for 2 free months where you'll not only have access to all 12 of these lessons, but you will also have access to my entire curriculum, all of my assessments, all of my movement breaks, and especially 20 plus hours of professional development where I show you how I bring meaningful movement into all of my lessons in a way that you feel like you don't need to completely change the way that you teach in order to bring it in. Something to remember if you do sign up for this is that because it's love it or leave it, you can cancel anytime, and if you do end up getting charged and it just wasn't a right fit for you, make sure to email me at info@soaringscarvesacademy.com because I always refund the first payment if it's just not right for you. Continuing on with our rhythm dreidel, because what you're going to do is you're going to explain the rules of the game to the students. They're actually very simple to use. Then you're going to give all of your students some gold coins. Now, I do try to make all of these absolutely no prep, but I do say that if you did want to play this dreidel game, what I do is I print out all of these coins, I make enough for each of my students, and I do cut them out. I tried to use this as a digital assessment, but I really didn't find it as easy to do when my students weren't able to put their coins into the pot and take it back out of the pot. So I'm sorry, it is just a little bit of prep, but not much. What I then do is I just play a couple rounds as an entire class where we're each playing together. Usually that means that I split my class into about 5 groups of 4 to 5 people in each. And then the easiest thing in the world is you don't even have to get an actual dreidel, although as it's such a wonderful thing to have in the classroom, 100%, but you can just play it using the digital one. Literally all you do is search up the word dreidel and it will come up. So right there, I just rolled a gimmel, and each of my students will have the numbers 1 through usually 4 or 5. And so I'll say, okay, all number 1s are rolling, and we all roll together. And if that student then lands on the gimmel, then they look to see what it is. Get all. Now, everyone had put in 1 coin into the pot to start the game. So they would have gotten all of those coins. But now the challenge is they each have to go around and perform one of the rhythms that they got. Oh, and I almost forgot to say that what I love for my students to do is they write out. My students are, depending on the grade, usually this is, again, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, so they know how to count basic rhythms. They'd count 1 and 2 and 3, 4, and they'd write that down along with their name before putting it into the pot. Then we start back at the beginning if gimmel was already 1. And my students all take a second, they write in the new rhythms before adding their coin to the pot. Then students number 2 would roll the dreidel, that time landing on the hay, which means that those students would take half of the coins. And just as a side note, because I ran into this problem last year, if they land on hay, the player gets half the pot. If there's an odd number of pieces in the pot, the player takes half of the total plus 1, making it whatever the greater number was. So if there were only 5 coins in the pot, they round up to 6, and then they would get 3 coins. I have had great success with this game, and it's not only a way for my students to learn about something new, but I also get to grab those rhythm assessments that I want for my students. And if your students aren't ready to do the actual counting, then they can also write in what kinds of notes they see. So 8th note, 8th note, 8th note, 8th note, half note, and so on and so forth. And with that, thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you in the next one. Happy playing!